Welcome to Energy Espresso, the podcast that's brewing bold conversations and powerful insights. Dave Bosco is your guide to energizing ideas and electrifying discussions on all things energy and power. Each episode will perk up your perspective as we sit down with industry leaders and experts who are shaping the future over a great cup of coffee. So grab your favorite blend, settle in, and get ready to stay fully charged. This is Energy Espresso. Let's get brewing.
Good morning, and thanks for joining today's episode of the Energy Espresso. My name is Dave Bosco, and I'm your host, and we have a very special guest today, Mr. Peter Cook with the Permian Power Connection. Peter, how are you doing this morning?
Doing grand. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure you making it here. So we're recording this podcast here at our offices, Pro Power facility off FM 307. And this being the Energy Espresso, Peter, we wanted to go ahead and, get the conversation energized. So we went to the local coffee shop here in Building B at the 307 facility and just thought that we'd go ahead and take a sip and let me know what you think about that Bustamante coffee that I suggested.
And that's great. It's great. Big fan of coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. I brought you a bag of what I've been drinking for the last year. I got introduced, just doing a training class to Fiat coffee out of Colwich, Kansas, and I don't know how many large bags we've purchased over the last year, but my wife and I every morning we make our cortado, just a little shot there, and it kind of kicks off the day, similar to your podcast. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And is that your normal routine, is just get up with your wife, have a cup of coffee, do anything else to get ready for the day?
Well, every day, 5:40, we're up. She sits and does some reading. I go down and make her some tea, and then I do my little morning reading and praying myself and kick off our day. We're both Catholic, so we hit Mass in the morning, and then we get back from Mass. I make the cortado, and she makes breakfast, and by then the kids are starting to get up and the day kicks off. But the coffee is the vital hinge there, I think.
Yes. Caffeine hit is a have-to situation for me, at least, to be able to function normally.
Yeah.
It's a vice, but it's one of those vices that, can yield some good productivity at least.
Yeah. It's a vice that without it, there would be other vices that would emerge.
Definitely. Way lesser of evils. No, that's awesome, man. So Pete, for folks who don't know you, who are you? What's your business, and how'd you start your career, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. So Pete Cook, I'm, let's see, I live in the heart of oil and gas country in South Bend, Indiana. But how did I get into this business? I've been doing conferences for the last 18 years. I remember the day when I came up with a concept for my first conference business. I was attending a conference and decided, hey, I could do this, and started on the side and ran it for about 5 years. And my initial focus was ethanol. I was doing ethanol logistics and some biomass stuff. And every time I did a conference, the sponsors would be pushing me to something else. So I really just went deep into energy. For several years, did a conference series on crude oil logistics, really moving oil from the Bakken. This had been in probably 2009, 2010. I started that.
So the start of the shale revolution.
Yeah. I was doing. I started with the Bakken, and then some of my sponsors there said, "Hey, have you looked at this frac sand thing?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And so we launched the Frac Sand Supply and Logistics Conference, which is still running. We do that usually in San Antonio. Is the big conference of the year. I think this year's our 14th annual, and actually that's where I met Joseph Tripke, who's my business partner for Permian Power Connection and Oilfield Water Connection. He's just one of the best analysts. The best when it comes to frac sand and produced water. And so he and I got to know each other very well over the years. He was always speaking at our events, and our newsletter always featured his analysis. And then he approached me about produced water in probably late 2018, asking if I'd been keeping an eye on that and saying he'd like to go a little deeper into that. And so we decided to launch oilfield water connection. And it's a very similar model. We do a multi-day conference each year, maybe 1 or 2 one-day updates in Houston, or we have one in Pittsburgh coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we've been doing that since, 2019 was our first event. Of course, we hit COVID right when we launched, but we muscled through that. And then, I guess earlier this year, maybe late last year, Joseph got chatting with, he had been keeping an eye on power, and we've been talking about just how everyone that we were working with was getting involved with power generation.
Yep.
And someone approached him asking, hey, why don't you do an event focused on power, specifically in the Permian? That's where all our strong relationships are. And we did research, and we couldn't believe there wasn't already an event focused on power generation in the Permian. So we jumped on it, and it's been great. We really kind of officially launched it probably, maybe 2 months ago, but there's so much opportunity here when you look at oilfield electrification or midstream assets, or, data centers, of course, is a big prize there. I think a lot of people are chasing, and Bitcoin mining, frac sand plant, just operations and that type of thing. So, so much opportunity, so many different players, and it seems like everyone that we already had a good relationship with is involved. So it's been easy to pick up the phone and ask if they want to get involved with the conference, or if they know who else should be involved.
Yep.
So it's been it's been great. We're really enthusiastic and optimistic about this inaugural event, Permian Power.
That's awesome, man. I want to unpack that a little bit. Joe, if I'm not mistaken, does the infill thinking.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That's his.
Yeah. He does some really good coverage. I actually I've subscribed to him in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way he unpacks and dissects certain aspects of the market. It's really good. Kind of rolling back to 17, 18 years ago when you started the show circuit, and facilitating these platforms to be able to bring folks together. I think thought leadership, connecting industry peers as well as potentially customers that want to have a single, show to be able to go ahead and evaluate, hey, who's who in the zoo, what's different. Maybe there's some panel speaking. What were you involved in before that? And, kind of you started your career. Where'd you go to school, from there?
Sure.
Early career.
I went to the University of Dallas. So I born and raised in Boston, just south of Boston, but I got out of there as soon as I could. And
UD is a great college, by the way.
I love it.
Right there, Irving, Las Colinas area. Yeah.
So I
went to school right down the road at the Highlands.
Did you really?
Absolutely, and used to go to Mass at UD all the time.
Ah, well,
the little friar ship that they had in the back of
the friar.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, my brother taught at the Highlands, as did a sister-in-law of mine.
Really?
Yeah, many years ago. I don't know if you overlap, but anyways, yeah. So UD, and my wife went there as well, but many years after I did. But and I got hired right out of college with a radon testing company, but 2 brothers in Northern Virginia, just wonderful guys. And I didn't know anything about it, indoor air quality or radon testing, but I just wanted to work with these guys. They were wonderful. And so I stayed there 20 years, and they really grew. They became the largest, I think, home inspection company in the country. They had employees in 30 different markets. And so most of my time there was first managing people in the field and training people. And then I really get into recruiting, and then that evolved into acquisition. So I was traveling around the country, finding new markets that we wanted to expand into and acquiring companies. So
So doing M&A?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my brother and I actually, I did the kind of the upfront sourcing. In fact, that's where I really started organizing events. We'd go into a market and do a little research, find out who the top 15, 20 inspection companies were, and we'd invite them to dinner, do a little presentation on just the state of the industry, and just wanted to first get to know them a little, and then see who are the real leaders in the market. It's a very fragmented market, a lot of single operators. And we try and figure out, okay, what's the team we could build here if we acquired their companies, and if they were interested. And so that was great. And then after I did the M&A, they decided to pull back on the M&A and kind of just actually try and herd all those cats. And we started a commercial division.
Okay.
And I headed up that. And so for the last few years at the company, I was doing a lot of national accounts. We had these inspectors all around the country, either employees or in other markets, subcontractors. And so we would go to companies like, Wendy's was the first that approached us, but Starbucks and anyone with a national footprint.
Sure.
And they would say, you know what, like Starbucks, I remember, they just needed, they had a little kiosk for newspapers that they wanted to put in, also at that point, 6,000 stores.
Wow.
So it's a simple thing, but they needed a third party to go in and take pictures and measure, figure out where they could put this little 2 foot by 3 foot, I don't know, magazine stand. And so they'd pay us, a couple $100, and we pay a guy $50 to go in and do it. And we automated as much as we could. But so it's just a little niche. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that. Then that went on to architectural surveys and other things. But so I did that for 4 or 5 years where I overlapped, where I had my conference company. And then after a while, it was like, why am I working for anybody else?
Sure.
My conference business is booming, and I really enjoy it. I like to talk about conferences. As everyone attending the conference is paying me to talk to each other.
Yep.
And you don't have to be an expert in the topic necessarily. You just have to know the experts in the topic.
Facilitate.
Yeah. And so that's what I do. So, and I love being invited to come onto a podcast, but I'm a little hesitant because I'm like, man, you know way more about the industry than I do. I just need to know who knows about the industry and invite them to come together.
Absolutely.
So it's all about networking, relationship building. And that's why people go to the conference as well, so they can network and build those relationships.
That's really cool. So let's circle back to the Permian Power connection.
Right.
Because I think this is an exciting, opportunity. I fully subscribe and agree with, that's, our business today, ProPower, that's what we're focused on is Permian Power, specifically in oil and gas. And totally agree. In the future, I think there's going to be a plethora of opportunities. And I brought up before on the podcast and with other guests that I think we've got the platform in the Permian Basin to do the 2030 plan and strategy that MBS has been talking about doing in Saudi Arabia, right? But a lot of people may be asking themselves, Pete, power, I like to say power is a new black, right? Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, right? You got data center facilities being built up there, massive industrial loads, especially with onshoring of manufacturing, where it's not people using their hands, it's robots and electrification driving these automated processes. What made you decide we're going to focus on the Permian? Because I agree with focusing on the Permian, but I think a lot of people would be going, hey, the broader market opportunity that everybody's excited about is data centers.
Yeah.
What is it with the Permian?
Well, I think for us personally, it's relationships. We know a lot of people in the Permian. Actually, Joseph's from Midland. Or is he from Odessa? I think he's from Midland. But so first and foremost, it's relationships. But secondly, I think in the Dallas market, for data centers, Northern Virginia, Atlanta, it's I don't know. We don't have the same relationships in the data center world, sure, as we have in the power world. And I think the data centers are, you see, they have to come to where the power is, and where the power is going to be reliable and more affordable. And I don't know how anyone gets anything approved in Northern Virginia. I don't know how they source their power, how they're going to execute on those things. You probably saw the conference that they had yesterday in Pittsburgh that Trump spoke at. They announced $90 billion in investments for data centers and AI projects. And EQT had a big announcement there. That was great to see.
1 billion of gas supply.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great. But if I'm someone that is in the data center business, look around and where can I get the land? Where can I get approvals? And where can I get power? Where else are you going to go than the Permian? That's a first stop I would make.
Yep. But I think the proximity to the fuel
Yeah.
is the biggest driver for the growth in the Permian. Same as the Marcellus and Utica, right? Like at least the infrastructure on the East Coast is, a lot more mature and well built out to get that gas to market. But that has been, I think, the biggest catalyst of people going, hey, there's something here in the Permian Basin, right? We have, up till now, and I'm interested to see how this develops and if we see a flip happen, looked at natural gas as a byproduct of oil production, right? Like
For years and years.
tons of gas, and just going like, okay, what do we do with it? Waha can dip into negative. It's not a very, palatable, margin that a company can make, their business, kind of make dollars and cents off of. I'm interested to see, because of this requirement of more natural gas, do we end up flipping and seeing natural gas being much higher value and oil being the byproduct at that point? I know that's like crazy to think about, but you go, that's where the market is moving. Because I still do believe, with, call it the 70 gigawatts to 130 gigawatts of power that is required in just data centers by 2029.
Right.
Nuclear, you can't go and just build you a nuclear plant. We found out the solar and the wind projects, they make sense in some cases, but they can't be relied upon. And, government subsidies don't make a business.
Right.
Natural gas is the only thing that you can tap into fuel-wise that can enable customers to start up those load centers more quickly. That's been, at least my belief, is the proximity to the fuel and the need to be able to, get that fuel to market has been a big piece of this.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I don't know if oil would be a byproduct, or if they just they're both worth chasing, or, doing that work. But
yeah, and I would agree, maybe byproduct isn't it, but they start going like, shoot, natural gas.
Right.
We're in the black again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I saw some leaders on it, just reading some LinkedIn posts and some people that I follow, and they're talking about, with the cost of using natural gas, why don't you just wait for the grid? And I'm thinking, why would? And they're talking about wait 10 years, until you can get it. I'm thinking, well, what kind of business plan is that?
Yeah.
When you don't know what that cost will be, or if they'll just say at some point, no mas, we don't have any more power to give you.
Yeah.
So natural gas, if again in the data center world, man, if I could lock in a supply, I'm not sure if we're going to see data centers buying oil and gas companies to lock in their own power.
I think you see some of the alignment and strategies that are happening with, announcements that have happened with Chevron, Williams. They're going, hey, we're going to buy our generation assets because we have the natural gas. We've got the gas processing facilities, and they're building out these power plants. Engine One has been a big catalyst in, buying up delivery slots and capacity of those assets and figuring out how to kind of make those alignments and partnerships with this very early, fifth or sixth industrial revolution that we're in right now.
Right.
I mean, I feel like if you compare it to the OG industrial revolution that we went through in the United States in the, early 1900s, where people are going like, hey, we want to shift from steam to using oil, right? And we can start using this prime mover, whether it's an engine, other machines, start generating power. Like, we are in the very early stages where I think this is going to move much more quickly, because in today's day and age, things proliferate very fast. But it's really interesting to see how this is all framing up. And honestly, this has been something I've been following for, in my career about 4 or 5 years. And we really started to see this data center piece of this catch some steam about 18 to 20-ish months ago, where, especially in the AI space, because data centers have always existed.
Sure.
It's really just this AI space. And, if we almost kind of circle to that, what are you seeing in kind of the interest in the Permian Power Connection Conference associated with AI data centers specifically?
Well, right now, we're seeing a lot of interest, but mostly it's people trying to get land and power and kind of infrastructure in place to attract those AI data center people in.
So kind of Field of Dreams. Build it and they will come.
Right. Almost. Yeah.
I subscribe to that.
Right.
I think that's part of what, if we don't do that as a country, is going to leave us open to other countries, i.e. China, Russia,
Yes.
being able to take advantage of those companies simply because they got land, they got ways that they can make power. It's not going to be as efficient, and I probably doesn't have the rules and regulations that respect data privacy. I'll digress. But we have to own this market.
Right. I mean, there's a reason Trump was at that event. Yes.
1,000%. He's strong behind data centers and AI.
And it's not just economic benefit, it's national security. 1,000% is it's vital that we get it right and we get the right people involved. So I think the Permian is on people's radar for sure. And I'm hoping that in late September they'll come out to Midland to meet all the right people.
So late September, why don't you drop the dates?
Oh, September 29th and 30th.
29th and 30th, and that's here in Midland at the
Horseshoe.
Okay. If you folks haven't been to the Horseshoe, pretty awesome spot.
Yeah.
It's a great venue.
It is. Yeah. We'll have the entire pavilion. So there's 3 large halls there, and we'll have the parking lot outside so people can bring in some larger equipment and get your hands on it.
How did you go and start approaching companies about participating in this show and being exhibitors, being speakers, being part of, the thought leadership group that's going to help shape kind of what this show ends up looking like in the next couple of years?
Yeah. Well, the first thing was when we had the concept, we just reached out to a handful of, kind of close contacts. People, hey, we're thinking of doing this thing. What do you think? And everyone said, go. So, it's Ron at Liberty, Robert Crane at Texas Pacific. I mean, there's a handful of people that we just kind of threw the idea out there, and the response was very positive. And then recognizing, we're pretty good at organizing events and conferences. And Joseph, with his analysis, I mean, he knows the industry quite well. But we thought in this case, we usually didn't do an advisory board for our events because we feel like we know in the frac sand world, I kind of know everybody, and in produced water, we know everyone. But in this case, we thought, this is a first event. We want some credibility. So we're going to get some good names on there. So others that don't know us look at it and say, well, okay, they got industry leaders on there. And so they can give us advice because, I don't know the data center people. I don't know the Bitcoin world as well as I know oil and gas. So we brought in people there that could say, hey, you want someone in Bitcoin? Here are the 3 or 4 companies that are really doing something. So that's how we started, and that's how every day we're reaching out to speakers or advisors and just saying, hey, here's a panel we're thinking of doing. Who would be the best people on it? Mm-hmm. And that's been wonderful. I mean, I need to get the agenda updated on the website because we have a lot more content to add there. I've just been on the road for the last few weeks, but we're excited. So it's all, again, it comes back to the relationships and the ones that we have, and then the relationships they have that they can bring to the table.
Yep. So your other shows that you've had have a very similar format, right? And is that what people can expect is, you've got an exhibition hall where different vendors and companies that are offering probably a broad spectrum of services related to power. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, this model or our format's a little bit different in this case. We've traditionally been kind of content heavy isn't the right word, but it has been we have a single general session room.
Okay.
We'll have panels there. We're very panel heavy on our agenda. Not a lot of standalone speakers. Usually we start the day off with an analyst who's kind of presenting some data-driven analysis, but and then the rest of the day is usually panels, just because we like the engagement. It tends to engage the audience more and more interesting. In this case, we're going to start and end each day on our main stage, but we're pushing it back into the exhibit hall much more. We want a lot more. There's a lot of studies in the conference and trade show world that say most of the learning, the real nuggets that you learn at a conference is not from the speakers. they'll give you general topics to think about or concepts, but most of the real value is one-on-one conversations, small group conversations.
Yep.
So we're going to try and do that in the exhibit hall we'll have some smaller breakout stages where they'll go a little bit deeper into topics. People can kind of craft their own agenda. It's not revolutionary. There's a lot of different, especially in the tech space, a lot of conferences that do that.
Yep.
And then we'll have some lounges where, I mean, I'm calling them lounges, but people can just get together and we're just going to try and facilitate those 2 or 3 person conversations throughout the day. So it's a little less structured, I think, than our typical conferences. So it's a little bit different, but we think that's for this group, it's kind of the right approach.
No, I like the collaboration aspect, especially with facilitating getting that much horsepower, in a building, right? The one thing that I've been interested to see, if this develops, further for you, and I think it's going to, is pure collaboration. Because I think a lot of businesses go on the defensive when they go into these types of scenarios versus just being like open and going, hey, the market's pretty damn big if we look at the total addressable market and the serviceable market that we can provide if you are a power as a service company or a rental business or what have you, right? Insert widget service here.
Right.
You can only serve pretty small piece of the pie because the market demand is insane.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see, how alignments kind of happen and going, hey, not people colluding by any means, but going like, look, at the end of the day, there's a certain way service should be provided inside of the market. I think standards, right, are really, really important. That's something I've been looking to see develop because that's what happens in the tech space, right? If you think about power generation, what it really is in a power generation service business, not rental, there is a lot of standards and quality that need to happen because I think the safety aspect for me is like number one.
Sure.
With us having field employees, they all need to go home at the end of the day. They all need to be safe. They all need to have all their digits and not have a shock event that makes them kind of tick a little bit differently, right? That's one thing I've been yearning for inside of our space. And this is an oil and gas, I think challenge, right? Is a lot of oil and gas service companies are getting into this and going, we're going to treat it just like frac, or we're going to treat it just like X service that we've offered before. But it's a different type of service that you have to provide, and the level of safety and standards, they're critical.
Right.
They're critical. So I'm hoping to see inside of some of these, because look, I'm going to be attending there myself, folks. And again, we're, ProPower and is participating in the event and sponsoring, and looking forward to meeting with some other peers there as well as other, folks. That would be something I think is going to be the betterment of the industry. And again, kind of looking at the tech space does that.
Right.
You've got to set expectations because you don't want, companies from outside the United States being able to, because there are some of those, they come and set up shop, in Texas, open up a facility, start bringing in their equipment. And all of a sudden now the industry gets painted with a broad stroke because somebody came in and tried to cowboy their way into this market.
Right. Right.
That's sorry to,
No, it's great.
dive into that, but that's just from a personal perspective. I think something that's going to be really, really important for our industry as it grows.
And I think here, the dust needs to settle a little bit, but people to figure out, okay, regarding kind of peer-to-peer networking and partnerships, okay, what am I best at? Like, there's enough business that not everyone has to offer every type of service. Maybe someone doesn't have the right solution to power a massive data center. They might be, their sweet spot might be behind the meter midstream, or any oilfield electrification, or small flare gas for Bitcoin mining, whatever.
Yep.
But know your sweet spot, and then be willing to reach out and partner with people that on the oil and gas side, you'd say these are my competitors, but be able to reach out and say, hey, look, I had this larger project And I think with this solution and with your solution, we might be able to really put together a compelling package. I think that will be really interesting to watch over the next few years.
I like it, man. I like it. What are some of the panel topics that you've been kicking around, Pete? And if you want to share, sorry for putting you on the spot on that, but want to share, feel free to share. I think that would be a nice, and we can edit this out. Just let you know, kind of chop it up as you like. You start over. What are some of the panel topics that, you've been contemplating? Just give folks a preview of what to expect.
Sure.
If they're deciding, hey, am I going to go to the show or not?
Yeah, well, we'll kick off. We'll have someone kind of give an general overview, maybe a 20, 30-minute overview of kind of the opportunity in the Permian. And then we'll jump right into kind of a keynote panel on the first day. And that'll feature some of the larger players in the power space, just talking about their vision for the industry, the opportunities, and the challenges. We're not trying to sugarcoat and say, hey, data centers, we're ready to hyperscale everything and bring it in. We'll talk about the challenges because that's where the opportunities are.
Yeah.
And then on some of our breakout stages, I don't want to make it sound smaller, but we have these breakout stages in the exhibit hall so that people can go deeper into a topic that might not be appealing to all attendees.
Yeah.
So that'll be like Bitcoin and crypto mining and the power needs there. We'll have a panel on nuclear, the opportunity. Natura Resources, who's got the first, I think, reactor approved in the last 30 years. And they'll be there. Doug Robinson, who's a founder and CEO. Really looking forward to having that panel. We'll have something on oilfield electrification. We're trying to pull together one on midstream assets behind the meter stuff there. And we'll also have one that'll bring in, hopefully, representatives from like the Odessa Economic Development Corporation and Midland. We'll have someone from Carlsbad, someone from, I think it's Lee County. Just talking about, okay, you've attended the conference, you've met some people, you're interested in pursuing a project. How do we make it happen? How do we actually bring it to the Permian?
Yep.
And so they'll be there as resources, and I think each of those will have their own booth space as well, so people can go up and say, hey, we're looking to expand, or whatever they might need. So we're trying to hit a lot of those topics. I'm trying to think of what other. Of course, we'll have a finance and investment type. I hope we'll have. I think Piper Sandler will have. Piper Sandler moderate. I think Texas Capital. We're in conversations with them. They've been involved with a lot of really interesting projects. So we have a pretty broad agenda coming together, but it's getting updated every day. We have one that just got pulled together in the last few days on sweat the small stuff, and it's air permits and stormwater and just little things like that you don't want to overlook.
Yep. On the environmental aspects that you want to avoid through letter agencies in your business.
Yeah, I mean, like that one. We have the CEO from New Era Helium will be serving on that. Just talk about their experience.
Yeah,
they're kind of the leader bringing a data center into the Permian. So we're excited. But every week we're having different conversations. We're like, there's another topic we want to bring together.
Yeah.
And some of our sponsors, you included, will have some time on those breakout stages to come up with your own panels or presentations.
Yep.
So we're looking forward, because you guys are the ones that are actually boots on the ground doing it every day. So what people are asking about, what they'd want to hear. So So it's pretty exciting.
I love it. I think the challenges one is going to be interesting. One of the biggest challenges that I think this has been a Permian Basin kind of problem for the history of the Permian Basin is talent. And you look at because look, in the power space, it's not just a bunch of guys sitting behind computers, working in offices. Like, that's the smallest fraction of a percentage of people that are actually involved in this business. It's people, because it's still a field operations business, and attracting young talent into the space and tying into the economic development side of this. You look at Odessa, Midland, Lee County that you're talking about, Hobbs, New Mexico. There has not been the investment in those communities to be able to really prepare young folks coming out of high school, right? And going, do I want to, instead of going to college, go to trade school?
Yeah.
Become an electrician, make buku's amount of money, and
Without
instead of taking instead of taking a liberal arts degree and going and working at a Journey's shoe department, which I'm not uh, discounting that by any means. You're going to get your hands dirty, but you're going to do some really awesome things and make a great living. There needs to be something around evangelizing kids to be able to go like, this is the market. If you're talking about where in the 80s and 90s, everybody wanted to get into computer science and IT, this is the next generation that is going to build up, I think, the middle class in this country, is facilitating services and products around power, data centers, AI. And folks have got to realize, like, hey, there ain't no shame in doing blue collar work that pays, white collar freaking salaries.
Oh, yeah.
And you are actually a much more needed part of this society today than it ever was.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's a trend that the number of students deciding not to go to college. And I know in higher education, they're all concerned about it. But I look at it just in that same way as, no, they've decided, $100,000 debt is not worth it when I can go and learn a trade. And I love it. I love the fact, gosh, there's still such a huge demand across all trades. If I could find a handyman, I'm not even talking about, super skilled, where I am, oh man, I could keep him busy full time for a year, just stuff that I can't do. So I love to see it. And, just last week I ran into a buddy's son who's 2 years out of high school, and he went through an apprentice program in high school. So when he graduated high school, he was already a union carpenter apprentice or something. And he is killing it. He's building data centers in northern Indiana, and he's loving it. And he's ready. I mean, he's ready to he's ready to be an adult, whereas his peers are in the middle of partying in college.
Yep.
And he's looking for a house. He's whatever. He's ready to advance in life. That's just great to see. And he's so happy. He's cheerful. Yeah. Because I think he's making an impact.
Good for that young man.
Yeah.
That's, I think there's been a lot of negativity around, not trying to dive into like generations, right? But you look at millennials, what is it? Gen Z, I don't know any Gen Z, like all of that. Like, there's an opportunity, I think, with, you kind of look at baby boomers, and that's what happened with a lot of baby boomers, right? Is, folks that came back from war, after World War II, had manufacturing jobs, had a lot of these jobs that created the economy that we have today and the industries that we have today, made some awesome careers out of that. And the beauty is, like, you can always reinvent yourself. To yourself, going from, doing air quality testing, and in your journey being where you're at today, you reinvented yourself at multiple points, it sounds like. And that's where I think, as a society, being able to tell kids, like, hey, you got to be willing to fail, but fail forward. And you learn something from that experience, take that and apply it to the next stage. Exactly as you framed up, you were facilitating these M&A opportunities and these dinners to facilitate people talk about topics. And that led to a spark going off in your head and going, this is the inflection point where I can do something, right?
Sure.
That experience of life in somebody's journey, I think, is what these kids have got to be realizing. You're not going to, strike it rich day one, and you got to put in, your stripes, for lack of a better term, to figure out what your thing is. And it's okay to change that once in a while.
So this transition, not the transition, but this focus on trade schools, and there's a few small trade schools that are opening up. I love to see it. Or military. I mean, you mentioned your son and my son, both looking at military careers, and it's something that, for me, my age, I didn't even consider in high school. And I don't think it was, my father was in the Marines. My younger brother was a Marine for many years. Now he's Secret Service. But it's something I hadn't considered. So when my son approached me about it, and he was probably 16 at the time, and I thought, it took me a minute. And I realized, wow, he's much more mature than I was at that age. He was really focused and had a vision. Some of it was like he was in the Civil Air Patrol, so he got a little bit more exposure than I ever had. But I love to see it. I love to see these guys that are saying, you know what, college isn't the only path for success in life.
Yep.
Where I think in my generation, it was like there was not even a consideration. Of course, you're going to go to college.
Same. Yeah. It was definitely frowned upon, and you're looked at negatively, like you're a slacker.
Right.
If you didn't, which, and hey, people's minds, that's the beauty of humanity, is we can change our minds really quickly based upon the dynamics that are happening in society.
Right.
It's encouraging to see some of these trends. I mean, shoot, you look at what you're going to learn inside of a college classroom versus you go to be a medium voltage electrician and you're having to do calculations on like short current studies, like the amount of math and abstract thinking that's required. I'm not sure if a lot of people with very advanced degrees would even be able to, master that, because there's a different way of thinking that goes into it. And that's, we got to have people that think differently, or else the world's pretty plain vanilla and boring.
That's not the case now. So much opportunity.
There is. Well, I know we kind of diverged a little bit there, Pete, but I think it's an important piece to kind of be looking at as, this show that you're facilitating is happening in September. People are coming together. Those challenges that is, industry leaders and folks involved in business have got to be willing to tackle some of these topics to make sure and attract that talent, because that is the only way that I think these businesses actually succeed, is with people. We've got to make sure and attract the best talent to be part of these businesses.
Yeah. And part of the challenge, and it's not really pertinent. I mean, it's actually very pertinent to the conference, but we're probably not going to have a discussion on it, is how do you make Midland attractive to someone who's, I don't know, maybe they're in Dallas or they're elsewhere. How do you make them look at it without saying, most people, it's, you live in Midland. Oh, I got hired for oil and gas. I got a great offer and I couldn't say no.
Yep.
But how do we make them say, I want to get to Midland or Odessa? I mean, I want to get to the Permian and find the right career there. Or for the entrepreneur, the guy who's in Austin now trying to raise money. How do you get him to say, you know what, I'm going to go to Midland and raise money? There's plenty of money in Midland. We know that.
There is.
But how do they build that environment of attracting the talent, either the innovators, the entrepreneurs, or the people that are willing to just go get it done.
Yep.
They want to raise a family, and this is where I want to be. This is where I want to raise my kids in the Permian. And that's a larger question that I'm sure there are people that are grappling with it. But as an outsider, I see it as a real challenge, because, man, just as we discussed, trying to find a hotel when you come into Midland.
Yep.
Frustrating as could be.
It is.
But so there's just little things that they could do, and just to improve quality of life for those that live here is a larger question for those economic development people.
Yep. I totally agree, man. This is with our business, not trying to make this about our business by any means.
Sure.
At ProPower, this is a challenge that, we looked at when we started this company up under ProPetro, is just that companies have to invest inside of the areas that they do business in. And the way that they do that is they give individuals who otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to move into a new technology space or a new industry, because they don't match what the resume criteria is, right? Investing in people, right? You invest in people, they're willing to run through a brick wall lined with steel for you, because the loyalty goes two ways. It's not just the employee's loyalty to the business, it's the business's loyalty to the employee. Because in a tight labor market, you got to hold on to the people. You're known by the people you keep, is my opinion. And the challenge, and look, I live in Houston. My wife was born and from Midland, but I'm a quote unquote outsider, somebody that travels here for business, right? That has been a big challenge, is everybody's here for work. The investment that is needed from the economic development perspective. And there's some positive things that are being done around that, right, in Midland and Odessa. But you have to go as a community. And it's something our CEO, Sam, is very, very passionate about. Got to invest in the community. There needs to be things that people don't go, it's a weekend, I'm going to go to Dallas. I'm going to go to San Antonio, Austin, Houston, or what have you. We're going to go to the new zoo that's being built here in Midland. We're going to go have a nice weekend, stay at the new hotel that's being built downtown Midland, shops, those things, especially if you want to attract data centers, right? They have a certain expectation from, I'm not even going to say a quality of life. It's an access to creature comforts.
Right.
That's the big piece of it. It is a lifestyle.
So how are you going to get the, Amazon Web Services people, the executive to say, oh, I'm going to move this, my up and comer, my rising star to Midland?
Yes.
That's a challenge, man.
It is. The one thing is Midland has got a different vibe. Midland, Odessa, West Texas.
Yeah.
It's a big, small town. Same.
Yeah.
Its community is very, very strong. There's a set of values that are, a little bit more of what you would have in, again, a small town. But, there's a lot of money and a lot of opportunity here. So I think the keeping people honest and, sticking to a moral code, for lack of a better term, on your star, there's something really refreshing about that. That I believe if those businesses have the opportunity to consider coming to an area such as, Midland, Odessa, West Texas, southeastern New Mexico, those folks may go, you know what? I've done it in the rat race, living in San Francisco, San Diego, LA, Seattle. I've paid through the nose for housing. My kids got to wait to get, access to a school. All of these challenges that happen. And again, those are first world champagne problems, right? But you end up going to an area that has more of that community vibe, got the beautiful outside area, wonderful sunsets.
Yeah.
It's hot, no doubt, but it's really pretty at night and can see the stars for days. Maybe gives people an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We're willing to make some, sacrifices to be able to be in a place that has a better quality of life from a community perspective.
I'm glad you said that, because I didn't want to make it sound like I'm down on Midland. Because if I had a choice, I would choose Midland over Austin every day. And it's that community side. And the nice part is the person that's willing to move to Midland, hopefully the person that recognizes that, the person that's willing to make that move. So you're attracting the right kind of person, I think. But there does need to be something for that, to bring that entrepreneur, or the person that's not quite sure, and make them make that leap and give Midland or Odessa a shot, because it's an unbelievable opportunity and great. There's great people. There's so many great people. When I look at who should I call when I'm in Midland? I'm like, man, there's some great people here. But they just maybe need to showcase that a little bit, or help people experience it a little bit.
Yep.
Get the move. Now, one thing you mentioned, I should have mentioned it earlier. You're talking about we're talking about first world problems.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the conference this is the first time we've done this, is we've partnered with a nonprofit, the Bettering Human Lives Foundation. Chris Wright started it.
Yeah.
And it's great. They do a wonderful report. I'm sure you've seen the Bettering Human Lives report that Chris started, I don't know how many years ago, but we've had him speak at some of the oilfield water connection event. Actually, he addressed the group this year as well, but it was remotely. But he started a foundation that tries to bring, basic powers to.
Yep.
It's mainly in Africa, where people are cooking with wood or with dung or whatever they can find, and I think 2 or 3 million people a year are dying from that indoor air quality problem from smoke. So they're bringing like propane oven, stoves and light bulbs. Just basic power that we would
take for granted.
Yeah, or that we think we're going camping, and I would demand.
Yeah, I'm bringing my battery pack with me so I can charge my damn cell phone and watch YouTube. Righto.
Yeah, going camping, guys. We're watching a movie tonight.
Exactly.
So they're doing great work.
That's really cool.
So we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do a silent auction. Try and raise some money. We'll give everybody. I need to need to get this announcement out, but give everyone a chance to donate whatever they want to the Bettering Human Lives Foundation, and let people, make their bids and get some money to help some people out. So it's a great group. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I think we'll try and start doing that at other events each year. Each event we'll just try and partner with like Scott Tinker and Toby Rice have another great group that's doing similar work. So we'd love to give back a little bit, give other people the opportunity to give back as well, because it's a great industry and very generous, and I just want to give them a chance to demonstrate that.
Oh, I love it, man. We get unfortunately painted with some broad strokes in the energy business in general, and the philanthropic, piece of this is important, especially in those developing countries. So we had talked about, is we got a lot of capital, a lot of access here in the United States with the booms that are happening in power in these other emerging kind of new technologies and markets. It exposes those other countries to limit their ability to grow into their industrial revolution journey because supply chain and access to those, assets, people, competencies. It's going to be interesting, as we were talking about before we started the podcast, how that develops. Because look, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. The opportunity that exists to be able to do what we're doing here in the United States, but the human in me goes like, something's going to give.
Yeah, you generate all that power. What if we generated that power, in third world countries? It changes billions of people's lives.
It does. Travis and I, my business partner, had talked about on the Power Hour. I have this belief that I think this actually forces more people to migrate and, move into more developed countries because of that lack of access. Because what's insane is, even though folks are using dung, wood, maybe kids are doing, homework via candlelight, right? People still have cell phones, which blows my mind. Still have some type of internet access, and they're connected in the world. So it's not like they're, living in a bubble. I mean, there are obviously some areas that, are isolated that don't necessarily have that. But I would say the far majority of those folks that, are in those impoverished countries do have access to information, and they're seeing what opportunity looks like. Just interested to see, I know this is like philosophically totally left field, but when do they go, you know what? I need to go ahead and move to the United States, Europe, insert developing country here, because I'm not going to have that opportunity for my family to do that in my country.
Well, it's interesting. And we mentioned this earlier. There's a podcast with Jordan Peterson and Scott Tinker, and they touch on this in that podcast. And I won't go in because Scott is so eloquent, and so is Jordan, but Scott, as the guest there, starts talking about some of that and the dangers there. That you have 8 billion people in the world, and 1 billion of them are energy secure like we are.
Yep.
And then you have 2 or 3 that are kind of, the second world countries where they have power outages all the time. And then you have, 3 billion people that are just impoverished, energy impoverished. And so, yeah, some of well, on the human side, we need to get them power. I mean, just as a human dignity side, but then there's a risk as well. So at some point, they're going to say, "Well, we've had enough of this."
Yep, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah,
be interesting to see this. This market, these topics, they're quickly evolving, and the hyper availability of information is going to be interesting to see how this continues to develop. Yeah, so. No, and Pete, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, man.
my pleasure.
Great conversation. And what we'll do is we're going to drop your contact info, as well as, by contact info, I was thinking dropping your website, your LinkedIn, handle inside of the podcast. And that way folks are interested in talking to Pete, learning more about the Permian Power Connection, reach out to him. I'm going to try and be recording some podcasts while we're out.
Yeah, that would be great.
We're excited about it, and I think this was needed in the Permian Basin, and appreciate you again coming on the Energy Espresso.
Yeah, thanks very much.
And appreciate the coffee too, man.
Yeah. Fiat Coffee, fiat-coffee.com, I think.
I love it.
Check it out.
We love local and small, boutique coffee on the Energy Espresso. Variety is the zest of life. It's like fine wine, except obviously it's going to make you highly productive. So
They're great. I bought the initial one. Well, I had it at this training class and loved it. But I mean, they're great people. But I buy the coffee honestly, not just because they're great people, but it's great. It's the best coffee I have. So
love it.
yeah.
Well, my next episode, we'll go ahead and do a review on it.
Okay.
I appreciate you bringing that again.
Sure.
And appreciate everybody tuning into this week's Energy Espresso. Again, my name is Dave Bosco, and most of us start our day with a fresh cup of coffee to get energized, and energy and oil and gas energize the world. So don't forget that, and forget to appreciate the people that make it happen. Thanks much.
Thank you.